kinematic versus mechanical, and we have realized that kinematic, the mechanical focuses mainly on the angles. We are trying to look at 0 degree perpendicular cuts, while as the kinematic mainly focused on just the resection thickness. That is completely discounting the angles when you are taking those cuts. But the knee, I believe, is a much more complex joint than just being dogmatic about one philosophy. That is, I'll just use either numbers or I'm just going to use angles and try and sort this complex deformity out. So, and like this slide has been shared many times today, and as we see, the soft tissue has not been taken into consideration in most of these philosophies, and that's where something had to come in, something like a functional alignment in which we considered the soft tissue as well, and which is sort of a perfect balance in between both the mechanical and kinematic alignment. These were the boundaries that Dr. Suha spoke about. I wouldn't go into details. Again, Dr. Lustig had given us these, Professor Lustig has given us these boundaries, and I think they're excellent guidelines for us to follow. So going to my case, this 67-year-old lady, classical medial compartment arthritis. Rest, I would have usually gone in for a uni for her. She did not have a functional ACL, and that's why I wanted to go for a total. And such patients usually always get a kinematic knee. Again, this is the case information sheet that we get from the MAKO. A lot of information, very busy, but I'll just highlight the few points that we need to focus on. This is the first corner that we see where we could look at our LDFA, MPTA, we calculate our CPACs from that. Again, I'm not very CPAC fixated. What I would more focus on is the second column where I'm looking at my joint line obliquity. I know that this tibia is in varus about 3 degrees, my femur is in valgus about 2.4 degrees, and that's what I'm trying to recreate at the end of the surgery, more than the CPACs here. And of course, it gives you additional information like the slope, which I would try and use it as a guide. Of course, you can't, in Indian patients, we get extremely high amounts of slopes, especially on the medial side, which is not very feasible to recreate, but it still acts as a guide. And just now, like we saw, we have two start points, the mechanical and the kinematic. Again, in the mechanical start point, if you look, we are just looking at the angles. We are looking at 0, 0, both on the femur and the tibia. We are completely discounting the thickness of cuts there. When we come to the kinematic start point, we are looking at just the resection depth, and I'm completely discounting what's happening at the angles, both at the femur and the tibia. But like Suhas rightly mentioned, I like to recreate my joint line obliquities, and that's why I would always start from a kinematic start point. This is the screen that you have, the pre-planning screen. So this is the bone that I'm going to resect distally and posteriorly. And those are my angles. I can see it's about 4.5 varus on the tibia, 4.5 valgus on the femur. Both are within the acceptable limits. So I would just start with the video. So we've got a standard medial parapatellar incision, getting the tracker pins in, the visa discs, and once I get that, I go in for the bony landmarks, and then I do my fine registration using a sharp probe, and this is basically going to is going to map the plan of the CT scan onto the skeleton. Sorry, I think I went a bit ahead. So once that is done, I have registered the knee completely. What I do is I check the native laxity by just holding the foot off the ground without applying any stress on it. At this point, I take away the osteophytes, especially the ones which are tenting the MCL. Once that is done, I apply some valgus stress since it's a varus knee to measure the correction. Then I look at my extension laxities, both on the medial and lateral side. Then I go for my flexion laxity, that is by using 2 osteotomes since it's a lax knee. If it is a tight knee, I go on the tighter side with a single osteotome, just jacking it up. And this is the plan that I'm getting now. So now the laxity patterns that I've captured is available for me onto the planning screen. So as you can see, I have 0.5 on extension. I'm a bit lax, I have zero point 0.5 on medial side, 1.5 on the lateral side. And on the flexion I have minus 2.5 and 1 on the lateral side. So again, it's very confusing where to start off with, where to start balancing it with. I usually like to try and get my extension lateral balanced first, try and bring it as close to zero as possible, and then I would try and get my medial sides, leave it a bit tight because I've still not subluxed my tibia, I've still not excised the meniscus, so I'm not going to go 0 0 here, because the moment you target 0 and then you do these two steps, you might end up with laxity, and that laxity is not going to help recreate your medial pivot. So I want that medial side to be slightly tight. And what are movements? Again, since I have this cuts planned, I'm going to try and maintain it as kinematic as possible. That is, just resurface the femur and make all my adjustments in the tibia, but we are looking at a functional, so I'm going to make some movements on the femur as well. So I start off by proximalizing the tibia, and I know I can't give any further varus because I'm already at my limit of 5. So I distalize my femur there to get the lateral side as close to 0 or minus 0.5, and now all I have to do is correct my medial flexion, so I'm externally rotating my component a little bit. So I've ended up airballing, flexing my femoral component on the sagittal, so I'm going to extend that a bit. So once I've done that, I think I'm pretty much okay with my target there. So my targets were to have a tight flexion, tight extension on the lateral side, and the flexion just opening up on the lateral side. And this minus 2.5, you would wonder that I would like to try and aim somewhere and close to minus 1.5 or minus 1. But again, since I know that side is tight, and once the meniscus comes out, it's going to open. My initial constitutional varus is 0.7, my planned value is 0.5. I'm pretty close. Varus of the tibia 0.5 and 4.5 of valgus on the femur, again within the limits. So I think I'm good to go here. So before we go, just I check my trochlea, that my magenta of the bone boundary is not being overlapped by the blue boundary of the component. Similarly, I look at my PCO as well. Because I think that's the most important part, just recreating your PCO. Once that is done, I think we are good for bone prep, and then the rest is pretty much standard. Once you complete your cuts, you can get in your trial components. You prepare your tibia, you get your trial components in. I felt a little bit of tightness on the flexion here, so I did a little bit of resistment of the PCL here, as you can see. And then I go back and check my gaps, and then that's my final alignment, and we are good to go ahead and cement. This is a cruciate substituting poly, so I need to get the poly in first and then the femur. And as you can see, we've got in full extension there, and it's quite stable in the extension with little bit of opening on the flexion. So that's my final X-ray. I could recreate my joint line, my slope, and most importantly is the posterior condylar offset. I think that's the most important part on the medial side. Once you recreate that posterior condylar offset, your biomechanics of the knee pretty much gets back to normal. And so basically functional alignment is something that recreates your constitutional anatomy, the joint line height, the obliquity. But of course, technology is going to be a very important part. It's not just in the pre-planning, but even the execution of those precise 0.5, 0.1 degree cuts that is needed, that can be achieved by using some sort of technology, mostly robotics. Thank you.